I watched my brother Marcus accept congratulations from his new team, champagne glass raised, smile perfect. Regional Vice President of Sales at Meridian Tech Solutions. He'd worked there for 8 years, climbed steadily, made the right connections. He had no idea I'd been watching his career the entire time. From my seat at the back of the conference room I could see everything. The leather chairs. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle. The catered lunch spread that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Marcus loved this. The performance. The validation. "Sarah's here somewhere," Marcus said, scanning the room. His eyes landed on me in my simple black dress, sitting quietly with my tablet. "There she is. My little sister, everyone." I raised my water glass slightly. "Professional. Neutral. Sarah's been between jobs for, what is it now, Sarah? 6 months? 8. He laughed and several people laughed with him. "But hey, she's trying. That's what matters, right?" I checked my watch. 1:47 p.m. "What exactly do you do again?" asked Jennifer, Marcus's new second-in-command. She had that particular tone. Polite curiosity mixed with pity. "Consulting," I said simply. Marcus nearly choked on his champagne. "Consulting. Right. That's what we're calling it." He turned to his team. "She sends out resumes. Lots of resumes. No calls back, but hey, she's consulting." More laughter. Uncomfortable now, but still laughter. Our parents had raised us in suburban Portland. Dad was a middle manager at a manufacturing plant. Mom taught elementary school. Solid middle-class life. They'd paid for Marcus's state school education, helped with his first apartment, co-signed his car loan. When it came to me, 3 years younger, the money had run out. "We invested everything in Marcus's future," Dad had explained when I was 17. "He's going to take care of this family. You understand?" I understood perfectly. I put myself through community college. Worked 3 jobs. Lived in a basement apartment that flooded every spring. Graduated with my associate's degree in business administration with a 4.0 GPA and $8,000 in debt. Marcus graduated with a bachelor's degree, $60,000 in family support, and a job waiting at Meridian Tech Solutions. "You should have studied something practical," he told me at his graduation party. Like I did. I was 20 years old, working the night shift at a call center, taking online courses during my lunch breaks. That's when I met Richard Chin. He called our customer service line at 2 a.m. with a question about his business account. We talked for 40 minutes. Not about his account, about business strategy, market analysis, growth opportunities. He asked questions about my thoughts on emerging tech sectors. 2 weeks later he called again. Asked if I'd be interested in consulting work. Real consulting. Analyzing potential investments for his venture capital firm. "You see patterns other people miss," Richard said. "That's worth more than any degree." I started small. Weekend projects. $500 here, $1,000 there. Analyzing startups, reviewing business plans, identifying red flags in financial projections. Within 6 months, Richard offered me a position. Junior analyst at Chin Ventures. Salary, $75,000. I was 21 years old. "That's adorable," Marcus had said when I told the family. "Like an internship?" "It's a real position," I'd replied. Dad patted my hand. "Sure, honey. Just don't get your hopes up. Those things usually don't last." I didn't tell them when my salary doubled a year later. Or when Richard made me a senior analyst at 23. Or when I started managing my own portfolio of investments at 25. I definitely didn't tell them when Richard offered me a partnership stake in the firm at 27. By then I'd learned something valuable. Invisibility is power. Let them think I was struggling. Let them think I was sending out resumes, desperately hoping for callbacks. Let them perform their superiority. Meanwhile, I was building an empire they couldn't see. Chin Ventures specialized in early-stage tech investments. We found companies before they became household names. Invested smart. Sold smarter. Our portfolio was worth $340 million, and I controlled 15% of it directly, plus board seats in 12 companies, including Meridian Tech Solutions. We'd invested in Meridian 7 years ago, when they were a promising startup with strong fundamentals but cash flow problems. Our $8.5 million investment gave us 3 board seats and 15% equity. Richard took 1 seat. Our third partner, Linda Morrison, took another. I took the third anonymously as board member A7. I'd watched Marcus's entire career at Meridian from the inside. Watched him network. Watched him politic. Watched him take credit for other people's work. Watched him step on anyone who got in his way. I watched him lie on his performance reviews. Inflate his sales numbers. Blame subordinates for his mistakes. And I said nothing. Because I wasn't there to interfere. I was there to protect our investment. Marcus was a decent salesman. Not great but decent. He hit his numbers most quarters. He didn't cost the company money. He was fine. As long as he stayed fine, I stayed silent. But I was always watching. The thing about Sarah, Marcus was saying now, gesturing with his champagne glass, is that she never really applied herself. You know, I tried to get her an entry-level position here years ago. She didn't even show up for the interview. That was a lie. He'd never offered. But his team didn't know that. Probably for the best, Jennifer said. This environment isn't for everyone. I pulled out my phone under the table. Opened my encrypted email. Typed carefully. 2. Email protected from board member A7 at connections.Com. Subject. Immediate clarification required. Mr. Vance. This is board member A7. I'm currently present at the RVP promotion celebration for Marcus Anderson. He has just publicly stated that his sister Sarah Anderson has been jobless for months and is a total failure. For the record, I am Sarah Anderson, his sister, and I've held my board position at this company for 7 years. Please clarify my relationship to Mr. Anderson to his direct supervisor within the next 10 minutes, or I will raise this matter at Thursday's board meeting as a potential ethics violation regarding family disclosure requirements. Best regards, board member A7 Chin Ventures. I hit send. 1:52 p.m. Marcus was still talking. I love my sister. Family's family. But at some point you have to accept reality. Some people are built for success and some people just aren't. My phone buzzed. Response from CO Michael Vance. Ms. Anderson. I was unaware of your relationship to Marcus Anderson. This is indeed a disclosure violation. I'm pulling his supervisor immediately. My sincere apologies for this situation. I set my phone down. Picked up my water. Took a sip. Across the room I saw Marcus's boss, David Wu, Senior VP of Operations, check his phone. His expression changed. He looked at Marcus. Then at me. Then back at his phone. He stood up. Marcus, could I speak with you privately for a moment? Sure. Marcus was writing hi. Probably thought it was more congratulations. Be right back, everyone. They stepped into the hallway. Through the glass wall I could see David's mouth moving. Fast. Urgent. Marcus's face went confused. Then shocked. Then pale. Jennifer noticed. Wonder what that's about? I said nothing. 60 seconds later Marcus came back into the room. His face was gray. He walked directly to me. Sarah. His voice was tight. Can we talk? Outside. Of course. I followed him to an empty conference room 3 doors down. He closed the door. Spun around. Is it true? His voice was shaking. David just told me you're on the board? Of this company? Yes. For how long? 7 years. He sat down heavily. 7 years. You've been on the board of my company for 7 years and you never told me. You never asked what I do for a living. You just assumed. I assumed you were unemployed because you never talk about work. You never mentioned. He stopped. Wait. You were here. At my performance reviews. At the strategic planning meetings. You voted on my promotion. I abstained on your promotion actually. Conflict of interest. Conflict of... He laughed, but it sounded broken. This is insane. How is this possible? You're a board member? Of a tech company. I'm a board member of 12 tech companies. Partner at Chin Ventures. We manage a $340 million portfolio. The color drained from his face completely. $340 million. Yes. But you live in that small apartment. You drive a 10-year-old Civic. You dress like... He gestured at my simple dress. Like what? Like someone who doesn't need to perform wealth. He stared at me. Does the family know? No. Why not? I looked at him carefully. Because when I told you I got my first real job, you called it adorable. When I mentioned my salary, Dad said not to get my hopes up. When I tried to talk about my work, Mom changed the subject to your latest promotion. That's not. It happened every single time, Marcus. Every dinner. Every holiday. Every phone call. My work was cute. Temporary. Not real. Your career was the only one that mattered. He stood up, pacing. So what? This is revenge. You've been secretly controlling my career to what? Humiliate me. I haven't controlled anything. You earned your positions. I just watched to make sure you didn't damage our investment. Our investment. He laughed again. You talk like you actually own part of this company. I own 15% of this company. Chin Ventures owns 15% and I hold those shares. He stopped pacing. 15%. Yes. That's worth. At current valuation? About $31 million. I watched the number hit him. Watched his legs almost give out. He sat down again. $31 million, he whispered. You're worth $31 million. That's just this company. My full portfolio is more diversified. He put his head in his hands. I called you jobless. In front of my entire team. I said you were a failure. Yes. And you just sat there. I was giving you a chance to stop. You kept going. He looked up. What happens now? Do you fire me? Ruin my career? I'm not going to fire you, Marcus. You're adequate at your job. Not great, but adequate. Adequate. He flinched. However, there will be consequences. David is filing a formal ethics violation report because you failed to disclose that a board member is your immediate family. That's a compliance issue. What does that mean? Mandatory ethics training. Formal written warning in your file. You'll be on probationary status for 6 months. But I didn't know you were. You should have asked. Company policy requires disclosure of all board relationships, including family members who serve in governance roles. You never checked. He was quiet for a long moment. The family. Mom and Dad. They're going to find out. Eventually. They'll want to know why you never told them. That's between me and them. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Who are you? Because you're not the sister I thought I knew. I'm exactly who I've always been. You just weren't paying attention. My phone buzzed. Richardson. Board meeting moved to Thursday 9 a.m. Meridian situation noted. Well handled. I stood up. I need to get back to work. Work. Marcus laughed emptily. Right. Because you have actual work. I always had actual work. You just thought consulting meant unemployed. I walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. For what it's worth, Marcus, I'm not doing this to hurt you. But I'm done being invisible. I'm done letting you and Mom and Dad pretend I'm the failure while you're the success. I never meant. Yes, you did. You always meant it. It made you feel better to have someone to look down on. I was convenient. I opened the door. Sarah, wait. I looked back. Are you going to tell them? Mom and Dad. They'll figure it out when you tell them about your ethics violation. You'll have to explain why. They're going to ask questions. Then answer them honestly for once. I left him sitting there. Back in the celebration room, people were starting to pack up. Jennifer approached me. Everything okay? Marcus seemed upset. Family matters, I said simply. Congratulations on your promotion. Thanks. Hey, Marcus mentioned you do consulting? What field? Venture capital. Early stage tech investments. Her eyes widened slightly. Really? That's fascinating. My brother's trying to break into that space. Any advice? I handed her my card. Real card this time. The one with my actual title. Sarah Anderson, Senior Partner, Chin Ventures Board Member, multiple portfolio companies. He stared at it. This is Chin Ventures. You back TechFlow. And Datesic. And, she looked up. And Meridian. Yes. Your board member A7. Yes. Does Marcus know? He does now. Understanding dawned on her face. Then something like respect. That explains the private conversation. Yes. For what it's worth, she said quietly, that was incredibly gracious. What you just did. Walking away instead of making a scene. I don't do scenes. I do results. She smiled. I like that. Mind if I reach out? I'd love to hear more about your work. Please do. I left the celebration at 2:30 p.m. Took the elevator down 40 floors. Walked to my 10-year-old Civic in the parking garage. Drove to my small apartment in Capitol Hill. Let Marcus have his leather chairs and his corner office and his performance. I had 12 board seats, a $340 million portfolio, and a partnership in one of the most successful venture capital firms on the West Coast. And now, finally, my brother knew it. Mom called at 7 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. Sarah, honey, Marcus told us something very strange about your job. Can you call us back? Your father and I are very confused. Dad called at 9 a.m. Voicemail. Sarah, your mother and I need to understand what's going on. Marcus says you're on some kind of board? This doesn't make sense. Please call us. Marcus called at 11 a.m. I answered. They won't stop asking questions, he said. No hello. I told them about the ethics violation. They want to know how you're on the board. They think I'm lying or confused. What did you tell them? The truth. That you're a venture capitalist. That you've been successful for years. That I didn't know. And Mom said that's impossible. Dad said you must be exaggerating your position. They think it's some entry-level thing I misunderstood. Okay. Okay? That's it? You're not going to call them? Not yet. Sarah, they're driving me crazy. Can you just... Marcus, you spent years telling them I was a failure. You can spend a few days explaining why you were wrong. I hung up. The family dinner was Dad's idea. Clear the air, he'd said in his voicemail. All this confusion needs to be settled. I agreed to come. Mostly because I was tired of the calls. They'd chosen Marcus's favorite restaurant. Expensive steakhouse downtown. The kind of place Marcus took clients. I arrived in jeans and a sweater. Simple. Comfortable. Marcus was already there in a suit. Mom wore her church dress. Dad had on his sport coat. They were performing again. Sarah. Mom hugged me, but it felt uncertain. You look casual. It's dinner. We sat. Ordered. Made small talk about weather and traffic. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. So, Marcus has been telling us some very interesting things about your job. Has he? He says you work for a venture capital firm. I do. And you're a partner? Yes. Mom leaned forward. Honey, that's wonderful. But Marcus seems to think you're on the board of his company. That seems like a miscommunication. It's not. I've been on Meridian's board for 7 years. Silence. 7 years, Dad repeated. Yes. And you never mentioned this because? Because every time I mentioned my work you changed the subject. Or dismissed it. Or asked when I was going to get a real job. Mom's face flushed. That's not fair. We were concerned. You never seemed stable. I've been stable for a decade. You just weren't interested in knowing it. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. I told them about the portfolio value. They didn't believe me. Dad looked at me. He says you manage hundreds of millions of dollars. That can't be accurate. It's accurate. My firm manages $340 million. I personally control about $51 million in assets, including my partnership stake and board holdings. The number hung in the air. $51 million. Mom's voice was faint. Yes. But you live in that tiny apartment. Because I like it. It's close to work. It's quiet. You drive an old car. Because it runs perfectly well. Dad sat back. This doesn't make sense. If you had that kind of money, we'd know. You'd have said something. I tried. You didn't listen. When? Mom demanded. When did you try? At Marcus's graduation party. When I told you about Richard's offer. You said it sounded temporary. You were 21, Dad protested. At Christmas 3 years ago. When I mentioned my promotion. You asked if I got a raise to $40,000. That seemed reasonable. I was already making $180,000. Thanksgiving 2 years ago. When I said I was diversifying my portfolio. You thought I meant I was applying to different retail stores. Marcus winced. I remembered that conversation. He'd laughed the hardest. Every single time, I continued, you assumed I was struggling. Failing. Barely getting by. Because that fit the story you wanted to tell. What story? Mom's voice rose. The one where Marcus is the success and I'm the cautionary tale. The one where your investment in his future paid off and my independence was a mistake. We never said that, Dad insisted. You didn't have to. You showed it. Every dinner. Every phone call. Every holiday. Marcus's promotions got champagne toasts. My accomplishments got polite nods and subject changes. The server arrived with our steaks. Set them down. Left quickly, sensing the tension. Nobody ate. So what now? Marcus asked quietly. You wanted us to know. Now we know. What changes? I cut into my steak. Perfect medium rare. Nothing changes. You keep living your lives. I keep living mine. That's it. Mom looked almost hurt. After all this? What did you expect? A dramatic revelation? A scene? I expected. She trailed off. I don't know what I expected. You expected me to need you. To come to you for approval or validation or support. But I don't. I haven't for a long time. Dad's jaw tightened. That's pretty cold, Sarah. It's honest. You made your priorities clear. I adjusted accordingly. We're your family, Mom said. You are. And I love you. But love doesn't mean I have to keep pretending to be smaller than I am so you can feel comfortable. Marcus set down his fork. She's right. I spent years making myself feel better by making her feel worse. We all did. Mom turned to him. Marcus. No, Mom. It's true. Every time I mentioned Sarah to my colleagues or friends, it was with this tone. Like she was the family embarrassment. Like I had to apologize for her existence. He looked at me. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. I studied his face. So real regret there. Thank you. Is there? Can we fix this? That depends. Can you see me as I actually am? Not who you assumed I was. I'm trying. Then that's a start. Dad cleared his throat. For the record, we're proud of you. We should have said that years ago. You should have asked years ago. But thank you. We ate in silence for a while. Awkward. Uncomfortable. Finally, Mom spoke. Will you tell us about your work? Really tell us. I considered. If you really want to know. We do. So I told them. About Chin Ventures. About my portfolio companies. About the board meetings and the investment strategies and the startups I'd helped build. They listened. Actually listened. It didn't fix everything. Years of dismissal don't disappear over one dinner. But it was something. When we left the restaurant, Marcus walked me to my car. For what it's worth, he said, that promotion celebration. Worst moment of my career. I imagine. David assigned me a mentor. Someone to help me develop better professional awareness and humility. His words. That's good. It's humiliating. It's necessary. He nodded slowly. Yeah. It is. He started to walk away. Stopped. Turned back. You could have destroyed me. At the celebration. In front of everyone. You had every right. I could have. But that's not who I am. Who are you, Sarah? Because I clearly never knew. I smiled. I'm someone who doesn't need to destroy people to prove my worth. I just need them to stop pretending I have none. I got in my Civic. Drove back to my small apartment. And the next morning I went back to managing my $340 million portfolio, sitting on my 12 boards, and building the empire my family had spent years pretending didn't exist. But now they knew. And that changed everything.